Alright, we're here with a Niv Learn deck. Running this just to prove a few updates in. We're going to run the Niv Mizzet Supreme. We're going to run the Cosmic Rebirth in association with the Third Path Iconoclast to try and buy that back. This is our standard old school learn package we were playing previously with Cram Sessions. I just want a change of pace here on the channel, so I'm just going to play this deck for fun. Here's the sideboard. Nothing too major. We've added an Invasion of Azgals into the sideboard as kind of an edict effect for more of those hate matchups. So from that, it's our standard lesson package we were running before. All in all, yeah, let's see what to do. And editor note here, I forgot to update the Niv Mizzet art, so we've got the extended border from the old one. Right, first match here with Waffle. And we get the no land, so we mull. We'll keep this land here. So looking at this hand, it's pretty straightforward. We have the means. I go to get rid of Temple Gun, but then I realize actually I just get rid of the basic because we have base to find the basic. So we're down to 6. Opponent starts with white. I choose to get this blue down just for the sake of it, and they drop a Spectral Sailor. So this is a terrible hand here against Spirits or Mono Blue Tempo. And we draw another Growth Spiral, so we're just going to see what we draw here. We draw another land, nothing impactful. They flash into the Spectral Sailor at their end step. They have the Curious Obsession. There's not a lot to say here. They're just going to drown in value. They'll have counter spells pretty much for most of what we've got here. The best thing we can do is, they flash into the Spectral Sailor, is try to force them on their turn to use their counter spells and protection. But as we see here, they have all the free spells now that just cost 1 mana to fully counter our stuff. Yeah, Geistner makes it pay 3. We'll just concede because we kept a bad hand against it. This was a pretty quick concession. We're going to bring in tons of removal. We're going to take out actual counter spells, which seems weird. But ultimately, against this deck, our real thing is that we're going to just win on the merit of if we can remove something. There's not a lot to this deck, if I'm honest, to say against it. It basically comes down to, do we have a good slew of removal? Do they have answers? Do they get the good start? And that's the all there is to it. Maelstrom Wanderer starts us off, which is great because now they have a turn 1 body threat that can now be a counter spell, so we'll just grab a forest and get moving. Plan is to just use Growth Spiral here. I want to see if they'll pop the Maelstrom to try and slow me down. They don't. We now have Clarion here, so I'm hoping they just commit something to the board. They drop a Supreme Phantom here. On their turn, I decide I'm going to use a Vanishing Verse, maybe, or a Clarion. My plan is, right, if I Clarion, they'll pop the Maelstrom to keep their Supreme Phantom around, which takes 2 damage off the table. Then we just got to see what they do on their turn. Curious Obsession here. Second Curious Obsession. They're struggling for lands here. This is the other way we can actually win in this game. They draw 2. Do they find their land? They don't. So now we have a clear path here. So let's just Vanishing Verse that. Lose 2 Curious Obsessions while we're on. They get their 3rd land down. We find a Niv here, so we're just going to pass back. They flash in Spectral. I'm going to wait till their turn, see if they have anything productive here. I'm going to go with the Kolaghan's Command here. Because if they have the protection like Rattle Chains, which they do, we still get them to discard. Which, you know, every hand removed here is good. We'll go for a Clarion, takes out their board. They play a Shackle Guy, so we're going to counter it and see if they have any kind of counter spell. Now we'll drop our Niv, reload. We get a hand just bursting with removal, and they don't have a way to kill it, so this is pretty much over for them. This is pretty much how the game has to go. All their counter spells depend on them having flyers or spirits that let them play them for cheap. So if you can keep the board clear, it's great. If you can't, it's just done. So there's nothing really advantageous to say about this. It's a terrible start, to be honest with you. But at least it was better than some of the decks I've been playing recently. I feel that Control is just making a huge resurgence here. They drop a Spectral Sailor on the end step. They shock in. They have a Curious Obsession, which means they probably have counter magic. So we're going to pass the turn here. I'm going to see if I can force them to do it on their turn. I'm aiming for Curious Obsession because if they have Rattle Chains protection, then we should be okay, but they just have the Geist Snare. They get to cast for 1 mana, they draw a card, play a land. We have an Invasion of Asgul here, so I choose to play that. They flash in a Rattle Chains to keep their Spectral Sailor alive, which is pretty okay for us because they still just have 1 creature. They can't play things with flash now. Right, pass the turn. Mausoleum Wanderer, so now we can't really counter anything. Shocking the land here. I'm considering what to do, and I'm thinking I might have to Kolaghan's Command to try to force their hand with the Mausoleum Wanderer. So before they go to combat, I attempt again to use the Kolaghan's Command. They have a Spell Queller. Takes away the Kolaghan's Command. This is where having Jegantha hurts us because we could really use Supreme Verdicts in this matchup. We have a Giant the Lock here, so we can take out the Spectral Sailor if they don't have the protection for it, which they don't. We cram Sessions here to gain some life, try to find something. Ultimately, I decide none of these learn spells are great, so I actually use Learn's second ability, which is to loot our hand when I figure out how to do it. We'll get rid of the third path, we draw a land. On our opponent's turn, they have another Curious Obsession. They draw a card, another land drop. We have a Vanishing Verse here. They go for a Spectral Sailor, so before that enters, I'm going to try and Vanishing Verse the Mausoleum Wanderer. They sacrifice it, so I don't pay because obviously the target's gone. We go down to 5. A Growth Spiral. Find another land, play Edgar, but they have another flash counter spell and they have lethal damage. As you see from their hand, they just drew all action and a perfect balance of lands. They just tempoed out, so there was nothing really to say about it. Move on to the next one. Yeah, Spirits is not a fun matchup to watch or play, to be honest. I joked to my friends last night that Yu-Gi-Oh! Would have died if there was a control meta, a deck in it. Could you imagine in the anime? I do nothing. 12 episodes later, I do nothing. We're up here against a Jund deck, so Blood-type Harvester comes down. This appears to be value Jund, so we've gone traditional play, a learn spell into Environmental Science to fix our missing colours. With our Fabled Passage now, we have everything. Right, this is where I make a decision. We have 2 Growth Spirals, and at the end of our turn, our opponent drops their Shieldred. Now I could get a Vanishing Verse here if I fetch for a white or a black land, or I can get all my colours sorted because I can get a green. This is me being greedy. I take the green because in my eyes, between the Growth Spiral spell, the draw for turn and second Growth Spiral, I've got to hit a black land. And I don't, I hit a blue-green land. So in frustration here, I just concede because we're just too far behind. That was more of a salty concede because of my complete misplay. I should have played to the threats on the table and gotten a white or a black. I choose to take out our vetoes because their threats are more likely to be creatures. They could have Liliana, but we got Vanishing Verse for her. Honestly, the big thing is that we answer a Shieldred or a Fable of the Mirror Breaker. It's Jund, it's got to be running it, so we'll keep these 3 on the tap. Again, we have a turn 2 Cram Sessions. Opponent doesn't force us on 1, which is interesting, so we'll go straight into Cram Sessions. We'll do the Environmental Science line again. Our opponent drops their Blood-type Harvester, it's a repeat of the first game. Environmental Science is here, we're going to grab black, so we have all our colours covered. Play our black now, so next turn we can hold up either the Tyrant Scorn or the oh, they have an Unlicensed Hearse, so they clearly think we've some kind of graveyard strategy. My guess is maybe they thought with the learn cards that I was like a Greasefang deck. So you see here he just starts exiling my graveyard. Or maybe he just plays the Hearse in the main board as a value card. We draw here, put it into play a tap land, we're going to shock it in, and we're going to use Kolaghan's command here to get maximum value, take out the hearse, and destroy the Blood-type Harvester. They didn't drop a land pre-combat, so they either don't have a 4th land, or they don't have a threat they want to deploy. They drop another Blood-type. Drop another land, so that means they're not holding a Sheoldred, because they would have slammed that. Let's get our reload down with Niv and show them what our deck actually is. Either they're frustrated because they sideboarded, or they're not sure what's going on. I put the Drown in the Loch here because it answers more versatile threats, considering we've put a ton of cards into the graveyard. They pop Blood, throw away a Fable. Pop another Blood Vial, throw away another Fable. It seems bad. They find a Noxious Grasp to kill the Niv. They duress us. They take away our Drown in the Loch, which is interesting. Right, here's where I get greedy. So I play the 3rd Path Iconoclast, and I can hold up Cosmic Rebirth and Kolaghan's command here. They play a hearse, so I decide to hold off until they activate the hearse. But the last card in their hand is a Graveyard Trespasser, which means I can't get this Niv Mizzet back. So it's better to play for value now. So we're going to use Kolaghan's command again, blow up the hearse to kill the Blood-type Harvester. In response, they're going to exile the Niv. I believe they do. I'm sure they don't wait for the Graveyard Trespasser. In hindsight, I probably could have waited for the Graveyard to target and then force them to do that, but it worked out. Invasion of Azgul comes down, forces them to sacrifice, so we get around their ward. Go to combat, hit them for free. Decide to use Cram Sessions because I can hold up a Tyrant Scorn here. Actually, I can't, sorry. I just grabbed the verse. They get an Esika's Chariot. So on my turn, I consider my plays. I decide to go to combat here. If they want to trade, I'm okay with it. I decide here that I'm going to use the Scorn to save the 3rd path and make another blocker, because it also just messes up their Esika's Chariot because I can't activate it. They put them down to 15, they go to their turn, they find a land and concede. Right, running it back to game 3 now. Bring in a bit more versatility here. I ultimately decide to go down the Drown in the Lochs because their graveyard, they've shown they have mainboard, I think it's mainboard graveyard hate, so I was wondering they might eat their own graveyard now or bring in more effects to mess with their graveyard. We have another turn 2 spell for their learning, so we're going to keep that. They go Blood Dive on 2 again, so we pass the turn here. On 3 they go for the attack, so we're just going to get rid of the Blood-type Harvester. They have nothing, which is interesting. So, I'm trying to decide how to do this. I play a land and go for the Cram Session here. I could loot, but I decided to get Pest Summoning here. I just want a few little bodies to go on the board, save us some time. They loot away. Pass. They find a Thoughtseize, so Niv Mizzet's gone. We find a Vanishing Verse here, which is perfect, so we're just going to pass the turn. We're not going to use the Pest Summoning yet. I want to do it the turn after where I can hold up a Vanishing Verse, because there's every possibility they untap and go for a Sheoldred. They activate the Ive Tyrant trying to exile Niv, so this is perfect because now Vanishing Verse can get rid of that and set snipe a land. On our turn here we have a Kolaghan's command which can rebuy us a Niv, which is perfect, so as long as they just don't top deck a Thoughtseize right off the top. Which they do, of course. I choose to let them have it because otherwise we just let them get that back for Niv, so we're just going to Ketras Triome. We start drawing all of the lands you could imagine. We throw down a Pest and bring Jegantha to hand here. Here's a Bone Crusher Giant to kill a Pest. And there's a Fatal Push to kill a Pest. So we lose both our Pests, but we're still above 20 life. They deploy their Boneless Crusher. I decide that we've got to really just push out for Jegantha here. And see what we could get if we get lucky. I mean, Jegantha is a good blocker here, and most of their removal won't hit it. They do have Noxious Grasp from the previous game, so we just gotta leave it. Fortunately, it doesn't feel like they have anything, so we're gonna shock in, cycle the Jetmeter's Garden, find us a Cram Sessions. I choose to hold off on Cram Sessions because I'm trying to figure out if I use Jegantha, if I have enough mana to Mascot Exhibition, which we don't currently. But we can wait and we'll just draw a card. So we go with a Growth Spiral here and we hit in their Mizzet. So Jegantha, fulfill your purpose. Cast in Mizzet.
Reload!
We hit a great spell here, so we'll use Invasion of Azgul to force them to sack the Bone Crusher. We're back up to full lands here. We can drop a Colossus to get some inevitability, and they ultimately concede. That was a better showing for the deck. A lot of fun there. Our third match here. We keep an okay hand. They drop a Llanowar Elf, so this is either either Mono Green Devotion, but then I realized that's a pathway. So this is Angels, so this hand is terrible. Because I've played my lands horribly here, because I get greedy and want to play the Iconoclast first. You'll see why this is horrible when we get steamrolled. Yeah. Here comes a Replenish Angel, another Mana Dork, and I play another tap land here, because I figure we can't even cast the spell there, so we're not going to be in any danger. They tap in for 6, eventually, putting us down to 11. They take their time, they play a Righteous Valkyrie, so and the next Angel spell they cast basically is probably going to put her above 27, giving all the creatures +2/+2. So that unfortunately means that's what we have to use the Vanishing Verse on here. They play a land, go to combat. We are dead to so many things here. They're attacking with everything, so we're going to use the Vanishing Verse, get rid of the Righteous Valkyrie. It's interesting they don't pump the Resplendent Angel. Oh, they don't have enough white. They just pump out 1,000,000 creatures here. They blink Galia to gain more life. There's no way for us to survive here, so I look at what's the best option here. I can cast a Niv Mizzet with protection from monocolored, get a reload here, but we're just dead to their flyers. We were one turn away really from stabilizing because we just needed removal. So we throw away our lands here, make sure they don't make a mistake here. Nope, they go and attack with everything, so we'll move into game 2. Right, control elements out, everything that kills a creature in. Iconoclast is not that great in this matchup because all their stuff flies. So gumming up the board with a bunch of 1/1 soldiers, not that great. So wipes, removal, take them down. Alright, here we go. We have a good hand here with a Edict into a Sweeper if we need it. They play a Llanowar Elves on 2, so I decide here, play slow. I'm going to play for the Clarion. I'm hoping that they put out a creature on 2. They do, they go for their Galia. So we can kill 2 Mana Dorks now with a little Sweeper here, which is good, keeps their board clear. Their free drop is another Galia. It looks like they might have protection here, so I decided to use the Invasion of Azgul, because if we could just force them to sack instead of destroying Galia, then it might be better. Yep, we're playing another land here. We've got a Vanishing Verse for anything too scary. They drop a Guardian of Ghirapur here. Go Vanishing Burst, get rid of that. So we've answered everything they've got here. All we need now is our deck to not mess us up. It just has to give us some creatures. It has to give us anything at all. Anything that could, save us or keep us in this game. Cycle a land, find a land. Gain a ton of life here. Find another land, put your Jegantha into hand. Play a tap land, pass. Our opponent goes for a Kalia's Restoration, so they're just drawing gas and we're just drawing lands. They find Righteous and a huge Valkyrie, pump their entire board. We are dead to our next attack here. And I just concede because that's it. Hope you enjoyed watching these gameplays. See you in the next one.